Hi, welcome to an Easy Trade Update. This is Kim speaking on a Wednesday, the 5th of December. Okay, as we move on towards the end of the year, we've seen the euro make a continued rise in fame, again, popularity, as it's starting to run towards the previous highs here. It's getting closer and closer to the multi-month highs. If it was to pop through this, well, then we're looking right the way back. In fact, let me just change charts here. You can see this one's a bit clearer. In fact, let's just take that out of the way. And you can see the next highs then is round about the 133 area. If we were to put that on the chart, there you go, just short of 133, and then after that you're looking at 134-ish, just under 134. So at the moment we've made I say good recovery. Pretty much that's what we've done. Now, looking at the picture of what we've really done here, and looking from the big picture, sometimes it helps a little bit to sort of clarify where we could be going, or where we are in the whole realm of things. Looking at Elliott wave sort of studies, there's a 1, 2, 3 mark down there, an ABC. We didn't get off the low of that, so there's a little ABC correction maybe. This is the sort of first move here. Now, it's irrelevant whether this is a third wave or a C wave, i.e. is it going to be just an ABC correction in the bigger things and then we see some downside, or is it going to be a massive third wave? Whatever, what we're seeing at the moment is potential for the euro to run up higher. It's got resistance levels just above us. It may in the short term get a little bit overstretched. We're seeing a sort of a higher overbought sort of figures here, but I will remind you that we had oversold figures for absolutely ages, and we'd have been in oversold territory for around about from sort of 125 there down to, what was it, 113, so 200 pips of oversold back at that point there. So are we going to likewise here run a couple? If we run a couple of hundred pips, we're at 130, 131, 2, 3. We could easily a couple of hundred pips run us beyond these areas and into these next sort of areas of resistance. Now, just as we've we sort of haven't moved down in any of these periods without a retrace. We've had a little retrace here. Well, perhaps it could be tiring a little bit in this move here. May get another retrace, who knows. This isn't a case of getting a crystal ball out and guessing. It's just a case of looking at the possible options for where we are at the moment. And there's a couple of things to bear in mind. Of course, the euro situation seems to be getting slightly better in terms of, and it's not a long-term fix by any dream, or any thought or imagination, but in the short term, there's the Greek situation at the moment looking to be resolved. There's the Spanish banking situation and probably the Spanish bailout eventually to be sorted out. So there are some things being sorted out there. So we'll have to wait and see what's going on from there. But if we're looking at it realistically, what's happening in the States at the moment, we've got the fiscal cliff. There's no decision. It looks like it's pretty stalemate there. So we're going back to, if you remember, probably last year actually, or maybe even earlier this year, but maybe last year when things were running up on the euro, in terms of the States couldn't get their act together. The Congress and the White House, whatever, there was no agreement what they should do in terms of sorting out the problems there, in terms of allowing to borrow more money effectively, and the situation got quite mucky for quite some time, and you could just see the same thing happen here. So there's from the euro point of view, ignoring just the technical factors here, there's some fundamental points that could push the euro higher. Let's move all this out of the way for a minute. There's a couple of measurements. I mean, it's always nice to chuck a couple of measurements on things when you're looking at things here as well. And look, that was a pretty clean, these moves here, nice clean 1272 extension from this move here. Nice move. Now if this is going to run up higher, well, I'm not going to suggest it's going to happen all in one go, but if it was anything like the size of this wave here upwards, that would see us running up back up to 138, even 142 possible. Now how long ago was that since we were up those sort of dizzy heights? Well, just over a year ago. Funny enough. So the sort of thing is, this certainly is possible. I mean, I'm not going to go into the bigger pictures and whatever else of what's happening here, but and this isn't a short term, right, it's going to happen in a hurry. This could be a longer term happening, or something that may roll out. Of course, we've got the resistance levels here, and of course it could roll over at any point here, but when you look at the bigger picture here, we're barely moving on this wave here. Now if that was a corrective wave, which it appears to have been in the ABC there, and we're into a C wave or a third wave, whatever, we would expect it to, certainly it can't be the shortest wave of the move, so we would expect it to be at least equal at some point to this here. So for me, on this pure technical analysis, it would suggest further upside at some point, not necessarily in a straight line. We are effectively, as I said, potentially a bit overbought. We could, as you can see on this weekly picture actually, we could be running into a bit of a divergence place. Now on the weekly factor, well, the RSI certainly isn't overbought, and there's plenty of upside potential from where we are at the moment. So from the bigger picture, when you start pulling out, there's no overboughtness here, and it is where the RSI is not quite up to there, but we could get divergence as it passes through. It's not as strong as it was pushing up at this point in the weekly basis, but not surprising. It's had a bit of a push at the moment. We'll see, but certainly there's some potential upside potential. Now upside potentially, there we go. One thing looking at here in terms of, this is the COT analysis, looking at the sentiment. This was taken as of last Tuesday. And you can see the negativity on the euro was slightly reducing, not massively, but slightly reducing from the sentiment of the big boys, the hedge fund players, etc. Now when you bring in the current situation, actually I'm just going to bring this across and see if I can get that to, see if that's all on your screen. It's probably not. I'm going to have to minimize it a little bit and just wind it up a little and drag it out a bit, and so you can see what I want you to see. And I'm looking at the open long short ratios here of the euro dollar, and well, a couple of things. Let's just look at the open long short ratios here, and look, it's there's a hell of a edge, nearly 70% edging towards short on the euro dollar on the retail market. What's that say to you when the COT analysis is suggesting they're pulling away? They're actually, the big boys are actually moving, and the sentiment's moving a little bit more positive on the euro. Now the big boys play with the trends. The retail trader will fight any trend often and just look and say, well, actually that's been overbought now. So what would happen? Look at all those short positions sitting on this book here. That's his Iander's book. Look at that huge stack of short positions. We're net short significantly. You can see that, and it's a lot of that's underwater from where we currently are. What would it take to put a little short squeeze on? Yes, there's a net stops above us, self stop. So there's a lot of resistance. If we can get past 132, if we can move beyond there, there's no resistance of any significance. In fact, there'll probably be quite a bit of buying. In fact, at 132, there is net buying kicking in there. So if we could get any sort of surge here and push, it wouldn't take too much for the big boys to push this through, push out those sell stops. Yeah, okay, you're going to build up some more, but you then end up with a short squeeze, and it'll be interesting to see how quickly this underwater side here all of a sudden decides to get out of their position. So there's always a short squeeze potential. So for me, overall, the euro at the moment is a bit precarious in terms of shorting it. Yes, we could have short-term pullbacks, but for me, the potential and the trend and everything I'm looking at is suggesting possible more euro upside. And that sort of ties up with some fundamentals that we're seeing as well. Yes, the euro's not out of the woods, and yes, the US is posting some good short-term numbers, or I say good, some reasonable short-term numbers. We've got non-farm payrolls this Friday, and of course we've got the ADP figure today. And yes, sure they could certainly help the dollar in that respect. So we could see the euro have some pullbacks or whatever else. But for me at the moment, it's all pointing up from a technical point of view, from what I'm looking at there on the bigger picture. And from some of the fundamentals I'm looking at on the bigger picture. So maybe short term a little bit overbought, but with the facts and figures I'm looking at here, to me it looks like it wouldn't be hard to cause a short squeeze to push out some of these shorts, and then sure, we may pull over, have a bigger retrace in the whole picture of things. If we take this out of the way for a moment, look at the bigger picture here. Yeah, I mean, that may happen before we get to these highs. But at the moment, you can imagine, there's the sell stops all sitting above here. There'll be people that won't take the pain beyond this point anyway. That regardless, they'll close out if it starts running up there, because they'll see it as the potential to run back up, and then we may see, a bigger correction. But for me at the moment, it certainly looks like it's got some potential, overbought or not. If we bring it down to the intraday here and just look at what's going on, it's pretty difficult to trade at the moment, and this could be a sign of a bit of weakness around the highs here. We haven't got strong RSI up here. We're not really pushing anywhere. We're seeing sort of lots of bars and lots of overlap on these hourly bars here, and it's making it short for short-term traders. For me particularly, I'm trying to get into trend. I'm not trying to go against what's there. There's been a couple of counter trend opportunities maybe, but not good enough for me to be wanting to go short. When you look at that, look how strong the hourly 50 is. You've got all the hourly the 21, you've got the 34, 50, 100, 200, purely all lovely aligned. Yes, we could pull back to trend back into this towards the regression mean at some point. It's well and truly potential for that. And the other thing is, we've both yesterday and today's to date, we've missed a daily pivot. There's a chance for it to actually pull back from there. So certainly some intraday weakness and potential for it to come down. The momentum at the moment on the shorter time frames is looking a little weak, and we could see a break of this and these sort of levels reached. However, my sort of short, medium term, probably medium termish look is possibly more upside on the euro. That's it for today. So I'm just sticking with the euro. Cable's a little bit more choppy, and it's probably not so clear. I'll just bring out the daily charts. There we go. It's not made the new highs, but there is potential for it to do so. Gold's been pushing up a little bit on the short term, but it's still really possibly in a downside. I mean, a downside wave. We'll have to wait and see if this can provide some reasonable resistance, support rather. And the futures, well, we could have the Santa Claus rally yet. We've had a pullback here. There's potential that we could get the Santa Claus rally as we run in towards the end of the year, or towards Christmas. And there's certainly potential for that. It's in an upward trend at the moment in shorter term frames on the last few weeks. So there's potential for some further upside. We've broken out of trend lines from here. This generally helps, again, will help the euro maybe, as we see some further pushing up here as money moves around a little bit differently. So there you are. As stocks go up, bonds come down, dollar turns to euro a little bit more maybe, and there's a lot of belief and happiness in the market. So for me at the moment, as I say, it's just focusing on the euro mainly today. There is potential for further upside with some decent retraces at some point, but watch out shorts.